Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Art Whisper 88. Now this is watercolor paper. It's a relatively unknown brand. The brand name is Meeden, and it's a cold press watercolor paper. It's 100% cotton, and this is a 12-inch by 19-inch sheet, and there are 20 sheets, and it's 300 GSM. I think it's roughly like 140 pound, and it's comes in a pad, and it has a nice, since it's cold press, it has a nice feel to it, nice pebbly texture to it, and I thought I would give this a try. And I took out my small 8 by 10 gel plate, and I think this will be, I use the end paper as a guide. I just put a rough pencil drawing. I trace the shape of the gel plate, and then I marked the two edges here with my tape. It's a very primitive kind of registration. Well, because the edges are very thin, are very small, and there's bound to be shifting back and forth, so I'm not going to be super precise about it. And it's a smaller plate. I tore out some sheets, and it's a nice beefy texture, very heavy. The only downside, and I have to warn you, and many of you watercolorists already know this, that the tape here all around can be very aggressive, very difficult to remove. Now here there is a gap in the adhesive, so what you do is you take a sharp knife, and you have to be very careful in doing this, and then find a single page like so. This is not easy to do, and just drag your knife across the edge. See, and then you take the other side and just drag your knife all around like so. This plate's very sticky. Just have to be careful not to cut yourself when you're doing this. See, it tends to tear. There. There we go. I'm gonna have to glue that. So I'm going to make that the back side so you won't see. So that's the only downside about using a watercolor pad, is that it's all glued together. Because really the main purpose of that is to keep the watercolor paper from buckling when you're doing your watercolor. But we're not doing watercolor today, we are doing gel printing. So now that's out of the way, and I was able to peel off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets. So let's give this a try. I'll put the link in the description box below as to where I bought it and how much I paid for it. And yeah, so let's keep going. Let's get rolling. Okay, I will be using Amsterdam and Liquitex Basics. And first of all, I will create some lines with my Sharpie pen. I'm not trying to make these too perfect. Because in the printing process, these lines of ink will get broken up, and that creates some kind of interesting textures. Okay. I'm going to use some Naples yellow green. So I'm starting off with some light colors to contrast with the black lines. And since this is a very small plate, at least to me it is, I have to keep in mind that I'll be using much less paint than I normally do. So I'm just putting drops, literally just a few drops. So when the plate is this small, it's very easy to go overboard. So I'll be using my color shaper. Creating these swatches of color. And then I will finish off with my very small roller. Now this is a 2-inch roller. just clean up the edge. I will make some additional marks as usual. And I'm going to line up the corners with these marks here. Now I can't push too hard because I don't want the paper to fly off, because it's a small piece of paper. So when you work on a smaller scale, you have to be a little more careful. Now, since I'm trying to pick up the Sharpie marker, I will leave this paper on for about 3 to 4 minutes. Did leave a very nice ghost print. See, this is what I meant about the Sharpie breaking up. I like that. And since this is cold press, it has a very pebbly kind of texture. And this would make a nice background for some dark collage. So we'll see if I can pick this up. Let me try some cadmium blue-green. And manganese blue. Oops. I think that's already too much. So I will have 2 zones of color. Again, I'm lining up the corners with these marks. Now, I'd like to clarify one thing, because there have been some questions about the advantage of using your hand or using a baron or using a roller or a brayer. I find that it's not so much the pressure that you put on the paper. I mean, it's good to apply a good amount of pressure, not too much. What is the secret in getting a good transfer is the length of time this paper sits on the plate. Since the paper is absorbent, it grabs the particles of pigment, and that's why I like using watercolor paper, because it has the capability of absorbing large amounts of pigment and medium, because all acrylic paints have a medium, and it can be a glossy medium, it could be a matte medium, that gets absorbed into the fibers of the paper, and that's what enables the transfer. So the longer you leave this, the more successful your transfer is. Now the fine line there is not to leave it too long, and then your paper will start to tear. So there's a fine line between tearing and having a very good transfer, and that can only come with practice. And I've had lots of practice, about 2.5 years now. So, so there. So I'll be right back. Okay, let's see how we did here. I like that. Very cool. You notice how the Sharpie marker is still there. In fact, it's not diminished. Rather, it's more intense. There's still quite a bit of ghost here, so let me see what I can do. Let me try, this is transparent red medium. And some cadmium yellow deep. Let's see. Very cool. Like that. This is still too good to waste. This time I will use some of this Naples yellow green. Some deep magenta. Let's see what the outcome is. Okay, it's been over 5 minutes. Let's see how we did here. I think this is a nice transfer. Very cool. That's an almost watercolor effect. Okay. So I'm going to air dry these 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and I will be right back. Okay, everybody, here we are at the second portion of this video. The prints have dried very nicely, and I have cut these pieces of tissue and going to place them. Like so. And as usual, I'm using my Mod Podge. This is watered down. This is almost like 1 part water to 3 parts glue. So it's quite watery. And I find that it's easier to mount tissue paper when it's on the watery side. It takes a little bit of trial and error to get the right mix. One thing I have to say though, it's so much easier to work on a smaller scale. You have more control. There, that's it for the first collage. I'll move on to the next one. And these are my warm-up exercises with my favorite shapes. Just as a final addition here, we'll add some marks. That is the second print. Now I think black would contrast very nicely with this. That's it for number 3. Okay, that's it for the last. So I will air dry all 4 of these and then recap. Okay, everybody, here we are at the last leg of this journey. And as you can see, the paper has dried very nicely. What's nice about this paper, when it dries, it's very flat. There is no buckling whatsoever. I think it has the capability of absorbing a lot of paint, because I did apply the paint quite heavily. So here's a close-up. You can see faint traces of the Sharpie marker. And I think the contrast with the black tissue paper is quite effective. So that is print number 1. Here's the second one. I particularly like this one because of the textures. Now I find that if I use cold press, I get these very beautiful speckled effects. I don't get that with Bristol, because Bristol is very smooth and has no texture. So that is print number 2. Here's the third one. I like this one too because the color is really vibrant. And vermilion is one of my favorite colors. Again, here is the texture of the paper. So paper does play a very important role in the outcome of your work. So that is print number 3. And here's the last one. Again, it shows this very pretty textures. I hope you like this video. Please share this with your friends, giving me a thumbs up. Now this just shows that Meeden paper is a good paper. It's not expensive. I actually did this on my own. I was not paid or approached by any vendor because I want to give a honest, unbiased opinion, not an opinion that is formed by someone who's paying me to say nice things about it. Rather, this is from trial and error. So far, I like this paper. It's very strong. I only wish that it had come loose leaf, because it's very difficult to get them off the adhesive. I'll do the best I can and continue using this. So thank you again. Thank you for subscribing and for watching, and I hope to see you next time.